Hi, my name's Tony Vietzer. Today, we're going to be talking about the impact of cybercrime on everyday Australians, and particularly the impact of ransomware and cyber extortion. Before we begin, a brief update on what these actually represent. Let's start off with ransomware. Now, ransomware is malicious software designed to encrypt or lock all the files on your computer and only be able to unlock them if you make a ransom payment to a cybercriminal. Next, let's talk about cyber extortion. Now, cyber extortion is where a cybercriminal has been able to access your computer, exfiltrate or remove data from your computer, and then demand a payment for that data to be kept private, or they'll leak it onto the dark web. Now, in order to better understand the impact of cybercrime on everyday Australians, what I've done is undertaken a public survey through SurveyMonkey to be able to determine some of these key data points related to ransomware, cyber extortion, and cybercrime generally. Our survey began by asking people if they were familiar with the term ransomware. Now, given all of the mega breaches that have been happening in Australia over the last few months, the Optus, the Medibank, and of course the Latitude Financial breaches, it was important to find out whether people were familiar with the term ransomware to begin with. The survey showed that everyone polled is familiar with the term. Now, if you consider that Australia's total population is approximately 26 million, and if you consider that the Medibank data breach impacted 9.7 million Australians, the Optus data breach impacted 9.8 million Australians, and the Latitude data breach impacted 14 million Australians, you can probably appreciate why everyone's familiar with the term ransomware. Now, what is perhaps the most extraordinary part of this is that the Optus, the Medibank, and the Latitude data breaches weren't actually as a result of ransomware, but rather cyber extortion. And in fact, our survey specifically asked a question around this precise issue. The survey asked respondents, what do you think the term ransomware means? Now, while just over 51% of people selected the right answer, 45% of people actually thought that ransomware and cyber extortion are exactly the same thing. Now, while the survey illustrated a misunderstanding in some of the key concepts used to describe cybercrime, what was interesting about the findings was that when respondents were asked, have you been the victim of ransomware, only 24% of respondents actually said yes. Now, related to this question, survey respondents were also asked, have you ever reported a crime, a cybercrime, to law enforcement or the Australian Cybersecurity Centre? Now, 36% of respondents actually said yes to this question. The Australian Cybersecurity Centre, in fact, recorded over 76,000 cybercrime reports to it for financial year 21-22. One report every 7 minutes, and that was an increase on the previous year. Now, one of the most critical questions that was asked as part of this survey was to ask people, assume that 100 of your most precious photos were ransomed. And let's assume you don't have a backup of these photos, either physically or saved somewhere else that you could access. If you had to pay a ransom to get those photos back, how much would you pay per photo? Now, while the majority of respondents opted to choose that they would pay less than $1 per photo, some, in fact 20% of respondents, said they would be prepared to pay at least $5 or even more than $10 per photo. The final substantive question as part of this survey was to ask respondents, do you believe government should ban ransomware payments? And over 55% of respondents answered yes, that the federal government should consider banning ransomware payments for cyber criminals. Cybercrime and cybersecurity are going to be areas of immense change in the next few years. Already, we're seeing changes to the Privacy Act that are being proposed. We're seeing increased regulatory activity and interest in the area of cybercrime and cybersecurity. Thomas Jefferson once said that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. What price are you willing to pay for better cybersecurity? I'm Tony Vitsa. Thank you.